Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Now, my little owl, part 2. Everything's stitched down on the background. I ended up just overcast stitching all of those elements. Whether I put some more detail in there yet, I'm just not sure. What I want to do in today's video is start working the little owl and just sort of start working out some of the zones of what's going to go where. Now, I think the first thing I'll do is get the big bulky pieces down, because there's no use working a tiny little area with some stitches or some beads and you find out that the element that you place in for feathery sort of textures covers that area anyway. So I think that's where I'm going to start first. So I've just grabbed some bits and pieces of some lace, some crocheting elements, my basket of lace, and I'm looking for shapes within the lace that remind me of feathers. So let's have a look at this one. Gee, that's pretty good. The other one that I picked up was this one. That to me sort of feels like the top of his head. This one here, I think, might do well for his chest. But you sort of want to have room for his wings. Otherwise he'll be all chest and no wings. I'm looking at this little flower in the center here, and I'm wondering if the flower comes in under the beak. I guess I'll cut the piece as big as I can for now, because we can always trim it back to make it fit the area. So I'm just going to nip this little piece out. I'll take those little itty bitty flowers as well, because we might be able to use them somewhere. So that's the bit we've got. And I'm focusing in on his belly. Now his belly has this area, then this little stripy area, and then another one. And then it even really comes down behind his little feet. So I have a bit of room to play there. So it's just a case of, will this piece fit? I think it will. I'm going to bring him down past the folded edge of this. I'm going to take these little flowers out. I didn't think they'd fit. That'll narrow up this little bit of lace. Keep them to one side, because we might be able to put them in a cluster. Actually, I'll pin them because they'll get lost. So let's just pin them to my board. I'll just pin them there. Now, yeah, I do like that. And his beak can come down into that zone, so it won't look like that flower is competing with it, I don't think. So it'd just be that we would see. And the beak will stitch down over it. Let's just pop a couple pins there. There's still room on the side before we get to the first wing. See, there's a little gap there. So what we could do is, I'm just wondering if I do a little bit of ribbon embroidery there. Or do I bead in there? No, I think we'll save that space for something. Let's have a little look at the wing. Is there an opportunity to find something that could be the start of the wing. No. No. That there sort of reminds me of the top of his head for some reason. No. This either comes together really quickly or it takes a bit to sort of spot the element that could go somewhere. Just hunting through this little box of tricks here so you can sort of see. Sometimes even just a plain lace cut down is good. I think I want the wing too to be a different tone. I'm wondering if I can cut it out of this. Let's just take a little piece off and see if we can shape a wing. There's nothing really perfect in my box of tricks there, but this piece of lace has that sort of shape within it. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's worked. Let's see if we can cut another little piece out. See how it's got that curvy, that's what caught my eye. At least there's something there to give the look of movement within that wing area. But even little things like that, that little crochet edge, that can be good. Yeah. All right, so we have some wings. I'm just wondering if this crochet edge could be his eyebrows. Let's have a little look. If I could bend that around, I'm thinking that's going to be a pair of eyebrows. Just pin it on. Can't go too wrong if it's just pinned. If we don't like it, off it comes. Little guys like this, they're really tricky because you don't have a lot of room to play with your placement of your elements. I don't think the eyes will be too hard because that's just going to be just embroidery. So it'll be different types of threads used to create layers around his eyes. But what we do need to do is get these these pieces into position that sort of set the tone for his face, and then come in with the embroidery. Yeah, I think that's going to work a treat. That does need to be trimmed off lengthwise, but that's going to work. And I can shape that a little bit and manipulate it a little bit, those little ribby ends. And I can cut that at an angle like so and get that sharp edge to him. So that's pretty good. I feel like I need another piece of lace coming in underneath the wing, so to be his hips, I guess. Let's see what we can find. We sort of need different colour. What's this? This might work. Let's get rid of all the noduly little bits off of it. Sort of looks a bit like a hip too. If that went in there, then his little wing come over him. Owls are great fun. Owls they're probably one of the simplest birds that you can do, I think, and they give you so much scope to play with because they're layers of things. So you can really fiddle around with an owl and get texture and stitches. And let's pin that. I'm happy with the way that's coming together. We've got that nice curvy shape. His little wing is coming down there as well. He's got some decent hips on him. How quickly does the bottom part of him come together? And being it's lace, if lace is slightly swinging to the left and you want it more centre, you can always manipulate the thread to hold it so you get your true straight line. Yeah, there we go. There's his little body. Okay, so we've got something for his eyes. That'll be all threads. His beak will probably be French knots or beads. I'd love to do beads, but if the beads look too big and overpower him, it might be just little French knots or some little petty point stitches. Now, as for his crown up here, I think, where was that first lace I picked up? This one. This here sort of feels like it could be something. I'm attracted to that spray. I'll take that much off. So it'll either be this bit at this side, which is more solid looking, or the little spray. But once I make a decision, whatever I cut out will ruin the piece either side. I can't decide. Can't decide if I like a solid top to him with a distinctive peak or this spray. The spray in the middle is my favourite, and I just think it's such a pretty element. Maybe the solid piece could go on top of the wing. Just to add it, yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to put the pretty one up the top. I'm going to try and get it out of this. The pretty one gives us this little flower element as well, which I really like, for the centre of his head. Then the side pieces, I'm going to try and pop them on top of the wings we just did, just as another layer. There we go. So that'll be the piece in the top of his head. Yeah. And I can still stitch either side with something, whether it be some beads or something like that. So I'm going to pop that there, put a pin in it. So we've still got plenty of feathers left. I might even lift it up a little bit and make him a bit taller. Okay. Now, where are those little ones? This guy here. I might get rid of the scrolls and just give us these little bits. And then I'll just slide that over the pin. And it can be some feathers sitting on top of his wings. Just as another layer again. Makes his wings look a little bit more thicker. There we go. Just looking at the camera, my iPad is projecting to a TV across the room, so I'm just having a look at it. I don't like those little bits on there, to be honest. It's like we've lost the shape of those wings. So I'm going to take them off for a moment. Maybe these could come in above his eyebrows to help layer in there that shape at the top. Yeah, I think that is better. They tuck in under the eyebrow as a little bit more feather at the, yeah, that's better. Much better. I don't think those wings needed it. I think what I might do is just pop a few stitches or some beads maybe at the top of the wings up here, just to give it a little decorative element. There we go. All these little netty bits that come off that lace. They're great just to stitch around under foliage and things. Okay, I don't think we need anything else. The rest is just going to be stitches and working the eyes. Now with the eyes, I have out some gum nut yarn. This is not the colour I'll use. I'll be looking more for these sorts of tones and some creams, but it's wool and it's quite fine. So that'll be perfect to create some rings around his eyes that have a bit of colour, and I definitely want to get a bit of blue into him. So I've got 3 blues here. And then I'll be using some black for the centre of his eye and some white in the very reflections there. So yeah, I think he'll come together. I haven't yet worked in this as well. So I need to have a think about how I'm going to get this twine under him as well. I might just pin that as well while we're here, because it sort of needs to be part of this process. And I need it a little thicker, so I'm going to cut that. I'm going to twist it a little bit so it's a sort of a thicker branch. Pop some pins into that as well. And then those branches can split there and head in different directions, and I can just bring in another piece to join in to carry on. And then the same will happen this side. We'll have a branch coming up here. Something like that anyway. We might bring that one down so. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to secure all that lace, and I'll couch over the twine, so it's got some stitches holding it down. And then I'll be back and we'll work out the embroidery and maybe some beads. So we'll stop the video there and I will see you in a moment. Bye. Okay, I'm back. Now let me bring you up to speed. I have stitched down the lace components that you saw me place. I have added the 2 little flowers to the top of his wings so that they're like a joint. So I'll bring that up to the camera a little closer. The 3 elements that we got from that lace, we've now stitched down, and I put a little seed bead in the center. There was a little gap there, so I thought the seed bead would fill that nicely. Those same seed beads I've brought in around his chest just to sort of fill in a little gap there. Underneath that piece of lace that went right down the center of him, I actually laid in a piece of this gauzy lace underneath it. I just found that I could see the calico through that, and by popping this little bit of tulle lace there, it sort of just softened the background of the calico back. Like you'd barely know it was there, and probably you'd never know it was there, but it just sort of pushed the background away. I've started working his eye. Oh, actually, I'll just tell you about his eyebrows. There's the piece of lace that you saw me place down that came off of the wings. In addition, I've actually lifted it up higher, then laid this little piece of tatting, and then did some daisy stitch of a blue yarn. It's just the tiniest hint of the blue, but it sort of helped bringing in that blue tone. Now, I'm using gumnut yarn, which I think I've already mentioned. Now, I just wanted to show you, this is the piece of tatting. This is from my grandmother's stash. It was probably 1 metre long, and over the last 18 months I've been using little pieces of it everywhere just to have it all through my work, and this is the last little bit. So I'm a bit concerned that I'm going to lose it, so I thought I might work it into this piece, so a bit of the owl and a bit of the tree sort of come together. So I might actually pop it here. I feel like it would hang nicely under that branch. I'm just going to pin that because I would hate to get to this very end of that morsel and lose it. Now, I'm just mindful of time because this is going to take a lot of time to do this panel. And I was thinking I could piece it all together into one video for you, but I don't think that's going to happen. Excuse me. Because there's just a lot of embroidery, and by the time I do these eyes and then I'm yet to do the floral element, it's just, I just don't want to rush it. So I thought I'll turn the camera back on and just talk to you about these eyes. What I'm doing is doing a satin stitch through the bands. I've already laid down the blue, which is the wool. That should sort of tie it all in with that little pop of the blue. Now I'm working the next circle in, but I'm going to leave that outer ring between the two. I'm going to leave that empty. It'll just give it some little layers. So I'm now using stranded cotton, 6 strands, so it's nice and lush and thick. When I did the eye in the black, I used 3 strands because it's sort of getting finer as you get closer into the actual eye. But these rings, I feel, could be a little bit more textured and bumpy. So the cotton I'm using here, sorry I keep clearing my throat. Sorry guys, I just quickly had a coffee and you know what milk does. So I'm just using 842. It's like got a bit of an ivory tone to it. Doesn't really match, but it sort of matches. It sort of just brings in another element of colour. So I'm just working my way around. Now the plan is I will find another creamy tone and I will stitch between the black and what I'm doing now as well. So that's why I thought I'm going to turn the camera on and just we'll go for about 10 minutes and then I'll switch it off and then come back with this section with a little bit more work in it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like I mentioned, I was hoping to do all this in one video, which is just not going to happen. I just don't want to rush him. I love doing these owls, and if I rush, I won't be as detailed, and I'd really like to fussy him up a little bit. I'm not sure when I'm going to get the red panel done because so much time is going to go into this little guy, but that's okay. We'll see how the rest of the month rolls because there's still plenty of time, and the red panel in my head was going to be a bird as well, and I wanted to do a similar collaging bird, and it just takes time. It really does. So whenever, no pressure. So I'm coming up the side of this ring now. Now I am going to probably stitch an outline around this ring. It really just defines the eye, because the bit I'm stitching now is his actual eye. Well, no, it's not, because it's sort of the feathers around his eye, I think. So we could, yeah. Oh, look, at the end of the day, what does it matter? I'm overthinking the structure of a fake owl's eye. Isn't that silly? I'm running out of thread, so I'll get a couple stitches, but I'm coming to the end of that thread. So I will need to get a little more. Let's get that stitch where we want it. Okay, I'm going to finish that off. It's so thick. Okay. So I'll bring that up to the camera. So I've still got to do that little bit through there. So let's grab some more thread. And I might actually just use 3 strands now, because I can always go over myself. Look at my needle, it's getting so bent. It's my favourite needle. Now I'll just want to come in there. Sorry guys, I've pulled it right up to my face to get that exact stitch spot. Okay, now we're away again. Now I'll need to find a softer cream, I think, to do the inner circle between the black pupil and where I am. That'll be the next bit. Time just flies when you're doing this stuff. You think something's going to be a few minutes and suddenly you're like, well, there's half an hour gone. And as I said, I don't want to rush it, because the more time I give it, the more stitches I will do. Some of the other panels have been quite quick to do. So doing 2 over 2 weeks is really simple when you're stitching a nice simple design. But once you start really getting detail into something, because I started thinking about what's left to do. There's background stitches yet to do. There's some form of floral treatment to do on all of those branches, and I thought, oh goodness, this is going to roll into another full video. Otherwise, I'll have it all done and I'll just be giving you a 3-minute walkthrough. And I sort of want to spend a little time on it. Okay. Gosh, there's some stitches. How are we going for time? Oh, there's 10 minutes gone. Crazy, isn't it? And I know the first section was 20 minutes, so we spent half an hour now just laying down the lace, and that's not counting the hour in between those two sections of video. It was easy an hour, may have even been an hour and a half, just stitching it down, getting some beads in. I did hop up and make a coffee. We're slowly coming up. It's getting tiny. Okay. Now, come on. Next thing I want to do is pick the creamy colour that'll go in the next section. Do a little bit of that with you. Then I want to show you the laying down of the dividing stitch, the colour to sort of divide the two. Okay, so that's that done. All right, let's just put that aside. Now I'm looking for a softer cream, I think, than that. So something that's just a little bit more, yeah, that's better. Let's pull him out. And we'll keep it at the 6 threads because I want it to be quite raised. If it doesn't look right, I can always undo it and maybe take 2 of the threads away, so to bring it back down to 4. So I haven't even looked at the beak and the beading that I want to do on the beak. So there's definitely some work to do. So what the plan is I'm going to bring up a stitch in here. Let's see what that looks like. I think that'll be good. Oh, goodness me, there's so many knots and thickness there. This is going to put a little bit of shimmer. Wool is lovely to work with, but it doesn't often have a shine about it. But when you get your stranded cottons out, you get a little bit of a pearly, reflective finish on the thread. And it just adds that little bit extra interest to your piece, especially when you're working around eyes. Sort of light is starting to bounce. Need a stitch that bear with me, guys. I've gone quiet because I'm concentrating. Just getting that stitch in the right spot without it intruding in onto the black pupil. stranded cotton is not going through evenly. Of course it isn't. It's old cotton too, so if anything's going to muck around and not sit right, this one will. So degree of difficulty. Hang on, we've lost a thread. That's what's going on. Let's just stop. See, that's a problem with using older threads. They sort of get dust particles, even though they don't feel or look dusty. Of course they're not, but they actually are, because the minute dust particles get in your threads. Now I've got a hang of a mess, and it just makes them rough to pull through your fabrics. Now I have a feeling, looking at this, it is actually anchor thread, and I find anchor thread is just that little bit rougher. So if it's going to get caught or it's going to trap, well, it's not even dust, it's more lint, just from being around fabrics and embroidery, and you know, it just gathers, and it's ever so minute, but it's there. Now I did buy myself on the weekend some some thread conditioner. So you pull the thread through this compound that makes your threads slide through your fabric a lot easier. But I just haven't had a chance to unpack it and have a play, and that would probably go a long way to solving my problems here. Oh, don't do it again. Yeah, got it. Don't you love embroidery, guys? Sometimes every stitch will fly through and just sit beautifully, and then you just get to a little section where it's just dragging through. I know I'm stitching onto calico too, and within calico there's often little imperfections like seeds and lumpy bumpy bits. That doesn't help your cause, because it really is a cheap base fabric. If I used an expensive embroidery cotton or a linen, I probably wouldn't have half the struggles, but we will survive. At the end of the day, it's slow stitch, and that's what slow stitch is all about. Yeah, that's looking good. So what I'll do then, I'll just do a couple more stitches and then I want to show you how I'm going to divide those sections of the eye to give it a little bit of a feature. I just need a little bit more. It's coming together now. See, now it's going really well. I think it's because there was a few knots in that zone as well. So I was sort of really roughing up the cottons by dragging them through a very heavily embroidered area. So it's just patience. Take your time. Keep an eye on the back and the front to make sure that your threads are laying. Okay, now I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to outline that eye a little more, just to give it a little bit extra detail. So you can see the soft cream coming through there. That'll go all the way around. Now, let's get our needle and thread. And where's the black that I was using? So I think this time I'm just going to use one thread, because I just want the hint of the black. I'll show you what I mean. Oops. So I might link below the original owl I did earlier in this series that we did with the girls. That will show you just another version of this owl. And he was bigger. He's in my Journal of Stitchery #1. So I'll pop that video below. So if you're new to all of this and you're wondering what I'm talking about, the video will be below. So all I'm going to do with this little fine black thread is just go around the edge of the eye. It does a couple things. Not only is it a detail that helps anyone looking at your piece know that it's definitely an owl eye, but it also helps neaten up your edge, because it's satin stitch is a bit of a trick, and to get it exactly curved or straight can be quite a challenge. So by placing a little running stitch, a little back stitch, whatever you want to use, around that edge in like a ditch stitch, it just helps define the eye, because technically that is part of his actual eyeball and it's sitting on his furry face, which is a different layer again. And that blue and the line that is not stitched is his feathery face. And the eye is sitting within, I guess, an eyelid, the socket, I don't know. So it's just a case of going around and outlining it. Just getting that needle to come up in the exact spot that I want it. Really helps your piece come to... Goodness, sorry I'm clearing my throat so much, guys. Get rid of my glasses so I can see a little better. It's so thick, which is great. That means the front is nice and thick too. There we go. Just take your time. Slow stitch for a reason, isn't it? So what will happen now, I believe, is there'll be another video focusing on this piece. Gosh, usually I do it all in one video, but not this little guy. He's going to consume me. I think the rest will come together quite quickly once I get this eye. And the coffee is starting to kick in and I've got a little shake. Oh boy. Talk about making it hard for myself, and it's so thick. All right. Coming up. Coming up the side now. So we're nearly there. Could just about do it with a pair of pliers. I must be going through a knot. Oh, goodness me. No wonder fingers get so sore after this sewing. It's especially when you're getting into this really detailed layers of stitches and threads. I don't have to pull out the pliers, but boy, I certainly am working this. Okay, this is the last stitch on the outer ring. There we go. Now I'm just going to finish that off. Yeah, there's knots and all sorts in behind here. The back's getting quite laid. I can finish the eye off camera because it's just hit repeat basically. Now I will show you a couple little stitches in this little groove here so you know what I mean. I technically shouldn't be doing it yet because I haven't finished that cream, but I've got a little bit of black cotton and I'm just going to sneak a few little stitches into that crease so you know where I'm heading. Probably get 3 stitches in there. And that'll just give that eye a nice little detail. Yep. There we go. I'll just leave it at the 3 because I just don't want to go too far. Otherwise I'll end up past where I've been working the cream and it'll look a little odd because there really is steps to this business, not just whatever you want, wherever you want. You should try and follow a system. Okay, there we go. Just manipulate those little threads a little bit so they sit right. And I'll bring that up. You can see the little black edge just peeking around, and then there'll be another one come on that inside once I finish that cream off. So that's it so far. Now, as for the nose, I'm thinking I'll use some little gold seed beads. How are we going for time? 30 minutes. Yeah, we're getting up pretty close to the hour now. Probably got about 10 minutes. So what I might do is I'm just going to try a few little seed beads in there and see what they look like. If they don't look right, I might have to come up with another idea for the beak. They might be too big and they might look messy. I have a feeling they will, but let's just have a play. The beaks do tend to stick out of the face of an owl. Where's my seed bead needle? It might slow me down. I never spot it once it sort of disappears into my pin cushion. Don't think that's gonna... Oh, goodness me, what have I done with it? Well, that might be the end of that idea. Must be in the other room. Let's have a look at this needle. I don't think they'll go through it, but they might. Like as I said, I have a feeling, oops, I dropped it. I have a feeling they might be too big. Yeah, that needle's no good. My seed bead needle is in another room. But if I lay a couple down, yeah, I think it will work. I think it will work. But anyway, I've got to finish the eyes first. I'm sort of going ahead of myself here a little bit. Let's just leave those for a wee moment because I don't even have the right needle. And focus on finishing off that internal eye. Hang of a mess here. But I've pretty much got everything I need now on my, don't need that anymore. So I won't need those. Was there anything in here that we could also use? Not really. There's our little flowers. So I can start working those in the next video. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm just going to finish the eyes. Then I'll start the camera again in the next episode. And we'll work a little bit on the branches and the backgrounds and things like that. But we'll just get this owl's eyes sorted, his beak sorted. And then, yeah. I will see you in the next video. So this one's going to be three parts, I believe, to get this little guy sorted. All right, everyone, look after yourselves, enjoy your stitching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.